Hola muchachos, ¿qué tal? Buenos días, aquí tienen el horario para hoy, lunes el 13 de noviembre. No homework was due for today. There is a homework assignment due by the end of the day on Wednesday. It is 3 workbook pages that you'll have time in class to work on. At the very end today, daily objective to describe what others and yourself are like in terms of your personality using descriptive adjectives in Spanish, and this is where we left off last class. We began chapter 1B. 1B, the objectives are to listen to and read descriptions of others, talk and write about your own personality, and to describe your personality to others. The key vocabulary, of course, being personality traits, adjectives to describe your personality, also continuing to express your likes and dislikes that we looked at the verbs in chapter 1a. Also in this chapter, we're looking at word order, or what we call syntax, the correct placement of words in a sentence. In this case, we're focusing on adjectives, and then we'll look at the grammar of definite and indefinite articles. The is a definite article, and then a or some are indefinite articles. We'll look at that grammar as well in this chapter. So where we left off last class is we began looking at el vocabulario en contexto. You all took a look at these key vocabulary terms, jotted them down in your notes. All the key vocabulary terms, again, are adjectives to describe what people are like in terms of their personality. You have all the key vocabulary for this chapter at the very end of the chapter, which, if I'm not mistaken, is page 70 of the textbook. Let's take a look. Indeed. So here you also have a handout too, I do believe, that you guys used to organize all the key vocabulary here, mainly adjectives to describe yourself. And where we left off finally on the last time we saw one another last week was the video Historia Amigos por Internet. We watched a video and read the script that went along with it of Esteban, Claudia, Pedro, and Teresa communicating with one another under the pseudonyms Chica Sociable and Chica Misteriosa. We watched the video, and based on the script and the content of the video, you guys answered these questions, these statements, according to what we saw as to whether or not these statements best described Chica Sociable or Chica Misteriosa. This is where we left off last class. Today, as you can see in the daily agenda, the warm-up is exercise 5, so that's where we'll start off. With exercise 5, you guys are choosing one of the two adjectives provided. Choose the correct word, or adjective rather, to describe each of the people in the pictures. So, number 1, la chica es reservada, or la chica es artística. Again, all of these adjectives are key vocabulary, and a lot of them are cognates, right? Like artística means artistic. Pretty easy, number 1. Number 2, la chica es graciosa, which is funny, comical, or perezosa, which is lazy. Neither one of those cognates, but certainly the correct answer for number 2 is la chica es perezosa, girl is lazy. And then number 3, el chico es reservado, shy, or reserved, not sporty or athletic given the picture. So that's our warm-up, exercise 5, choosing the adjective that best describes the person according to the picture. Exercise 6 we'll do next in pairs. Maritza is talking about her friend Jose. Read the sentences and then choose the appropriate word to fill in each blank. Let's take a look at the word bank first before we get started. Trabajador is hardworking. Comes from the verb trabajar, which is to work. Paciente is a cognate. Gracioso, we saw from the warm-up, is funny. Deportista comes from the noun deportes, which is sports, so this is sporty or athletic. Estudioso comes from the verb estudiar, which is to study. Estudioso is studious. Desordenado is the antonym of ordenado, which is unorganized or disorganized. Bueno, you probably know, is good. And then sociable is a cognate, sociable. So if we look at numbers 1, 2, and 3 as examples, or first of all, the motto there, no es un chico impaciente. He isn't an impatient boy. Well, the opposite of impaciente would be paciente. Correct answer for the example there. Number 1, le gusta mucho practicar deportes. He likes to play sports a lot. Choosing an adjective. There's going to be one that makes the most sense. Deportista. If he likes to play sports, practicar deportes is our clue there. Es deportista, number 1. Number 2, a veces no es serio. Sometimes he's not serious. Not serious. We're looking for the opposite of serious, essentially, and that would be gracioso. Es un chico gracioso. Finally, number 3, le gusta pasar tiempo con amigos. He or she likes to spend time with their friends. Sociable. Es muy sociable. All right, and then we're going to take some new notes on the grammar of adjectives. In Spanish, most adjectives have masculine and feminine nouns. We've talked about this since we began our time together in August. The masculine form usually, not always, but usually ends in the letter O, and feminine adjectives usually end in the letter A. O for masculine and A for feminine. For example, Marcos es ordenado y simpático, ending in O because Marcos is masculine. Feminine adjectives ending in A. Marta es ordenada y simpática. Notice the same adjectives used to describe Marcos, but Marta identifies as feminine, and therefore the adjectives are feminine. Adjectives that end in E are what we call gender neutral, meaning that the ending of that adjective does not change. It ends in E regardless of the gender of the noun. It could be masculine, it could be feminine. Ends in E either way. For example, Anita es inteligente, Pedro es inteligente también. Adjectives whose masculine form ends in D-O-R, for example, trabajador. The feminine form adds an A, but it adds an A after that R there. So trabajador in the feminine form would change to trabajadora. Juan es trabajador. Luz es trabajadora. Now, we talked about gender-neutral adjectives ending in E. There are some adjectives that end in A that are also gender-neutral, and usually they have the suffix ista, such as in deportista. So, deportista is a gender-neutral adjective describing both masculine and feminine nouns. For example, Tomás es deportista, Marta es deportista también. And then exercise 7 we're going to do is practice. Copy down this Venn diagram for Roberto and Yolanda. We're going to assume Roberto identifies as masculine, Yolanda identifies as feminine. Obviously, a Venn diagram has two ovals with the intersection there at the very middle. Using this glossary of adjectives, key vocabulary from this chapter, put each adjective where you think it belongs. Masculine adjectives only for Roberto, feminine adjectives only for Yolanda, and then what we call gender-neutral adjectives there in the very middle. So if we take a look, artístico, would be for Roberto. Atrevida, outgoing or adventurous, would be for Yolanda. Deportista, excuse me, remember, ends in A, but it ends in that suffix ista. And as we continue on our time together, you'll see other adjectives that end with that suffix. That suffix is used as a gender neutral suffix. So ista for both masculine and feminine nouns. So we're going to put deportista right there in the middle. Estudiosa, feminine, would go on the side of Yolanda. The last thing we'll do together today is exercise 10, which you did a variation of last class. We're just going to build on what you guys put together. Make a chart for exercise 10 in your notes. Soy on one side, no soy on the other. And write at least 2 adjectives in each column to describe what you are like and what you are not like. You are encouraged to include the adverbs muy, very, and a veces, sometimes, as you see fit, as you see applicable, to really exaggerate or elaborate on your personality. So for example, soy estudiosa. I am studious. Soy muy trabajadora. I'm very hardworking. Soy deportista. I'm sporty or athletic. No soy perezosa. I'm not lazy. No soy impaciente. I am not impatient. So they've done a little bit more than 2 and 2. I would even encourage you to do more if you can. As you'll see, the activity we're going to do at the end of the chapter is a diamond poem, Poema en Diamante, that you guys are going to design and decorate and then narrate as a written and oral presentation. And this will kind of be your final assignment for this chapter. Remember, this chapter isn't going to be terribly long. We'll look to wrap up, if not by Friday, certainly by Tuesday of next week, or the week that we come back from Thanksgiving, as we're starting to get ready for your final exam. So you'll see that there are several adjectives that are used for this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think 7 total, if I'm looking at those correctly. So I would encourage you for the T-chart, see if you can come up with at least 5 or even more, because you can essentially utilize this list for that assignment when you put it all together. All right, homework for next class is Spanish 1, Capítulo 1B workbook pages. So taking a look at this, you have a couple guided pages. It's guided pages 47, and 48 on the guided side. And then you have also core page 25 to do. So 3 pages. We'll start with guided page 47. Gives you some notes that we looked at in textbook page 55 to refer to, highlighting all the key concepts that we looked at today. For part A, look at the adjectives below. Circle the ending of the adjective either being o, a, or ora. Simply circle the ending of the adjective. For example, trabajador. Circle the or. Ista. Forgive me, I missed those 2. E or ista. Those are some other options as well. Circle the ending of the adjective that you see. And here are your options up above in part A. For part B, now organize those adjectives from part A by writing them in the chart under the correct column heading. One has already been done for you. Trabajador, deportista, paciente, ordenada. Part C, write M for the sentences where the adjective is masculine, F for the sentences where the adjective is feminine. Be careful for those gender neutral adjectives. You're going to write E if the adjective is gender neutral. Number 1, yo soy muy simpática, feminine. Tú eres muy estudioso, masculine. Tú eres muy ordenado, masculine. Yo soy muy trabajadora, feminine. Next page. Part D, choose the correct adjective to complete each sentence and write it in the blank. You can even just circle it. Not a big deal. Raúl es estudioso. Rebecca es artística. Pedro es muy ordenado. Part E, a tip of the cap to exercise 10 there that we finished off with in the textbook, where you're talking a little bit about yourself. Exercise E is asking you to choose the correct adjective in the sentence to describe yourself based on the gender that you identify with and your personality overall. Yo soy paciente or impaciente. Those are both gender neutral, so which one of those two best describes your personality? Yo soy simpático or simpática. O for masculine, A for feminine, etc. Remember, trabajador is going to be a masculine ending. Trabajadora, feminine ending. And lastly, core page 25. Based on what each person likes to do, write a description of him or her. So this is very similar to what we did earlier today, circling back our warm-up, based upon what they like to do, based upon their hobbies or interests, their likes and dislikes. Choose the adjective that best describes each person. So, back to page 25. For example, a Roberto le gusta esquiar. Roberto likes to ski. There are a few adjectives that you could use to describe him. Atrevido, he's outgoing. Deportista, he's sporty or athletic. Either way, it's going to be a masculine adjective. So, Roberto es, to say Roberto es atrevido. Let's do the first couple together. A Esteban le gusta tocar la guitarra. Esteban likes to play the guitar. Well, let's go to our glossary on page 70. You also have this document filled out, your guided notes. We could say, for number 1, Esteban es artístico.
Artística.
You can make an argument to play the guitar is an act of intelligence, inteligente.
Inteligente.
I think one needs a lot of patience to learn and master the guitar. We could say he's paciente.
Paciente.
And, sociable. The person who brings the guitar to the party is often very sociable.
Sociable.
You could make a strong argument as well, talentoso, to be talented.
Talentoso.
So we have a few options.
Talentosa.
We have a few options for that one. Let's go with the last one, talentoso. A Esteban le gusta tocar la guitarra. Esteban es talentoso. Or any one of those adjectives that we just saw would work. But they need to be masculine since we're talking about Esteban. Number 2, Pedro le gusta hablar por teléfono. Let's go to our list here. If he likes to talk on the phone, probably sociable or simpático, friendly, sociable. Either one of those would work. Sociable doesn't need to change because it's gender neutral. Simpático would need to change. So Pedro es simpático works. All right, let's do one more. Number 3, a Claudia le gusta practicar deportes. Practicar deportes is to play sports. Deportista certainly would work. I think that's probably going to be the main one there. Deportista. So Claudia es deportista. So the name of the person, the verb ser, which is the verb to be, es, and then the adjective, and then just make sure that the adjective is agreeing according to the gender of the speaker. And that is your homework for next class, muchachos. Hasta luego.